I grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta. When I started building little websites for mom and pop shops, whatever cash they could find and, hiding underneath the chairs that people dropped, they were like, hey, we can pay this kid to build a website for us. All that being said is that I didn't live in a big city. I wasn't surrounded by big ideas, entrepreneurship, the whole 9 yards. I'm an introvert. I'm not a networker by default. I'm not going online and trying to find the best events to go to and the best conferences to go to. I just sit and wait.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Fueled by Progress, hosted by me, Mark Szymanski, the show where I like to talk to insightful individuals about a bunch of different topics that I find interesting. A lot of these individuals, they have made some level of an impact on me throughout my tenure on social media or just professionally or, what have you. Today is going to be an interesting one, though. I'm actually talking to a gentleman by the name of Chris LaFay. He is the owner and founder of Classic City Consulting, a web design and development agency. Go figure, very similar, right? But it's the first time we're ever chatting. And I want to make a quick point here because I've talked about this in some recent content as of filming this, but it's very important, I think, if you're of the mindset and of the type where you want to continue to learn and share that with other people, I've found that I should just film most of the conversations I have, especially the first conversations that I have with people, because that's when you're going to ask the questions to literally build the initial knowledge base of that person, of their trajectory, kind of who they are and the value that they provide. And of course, you can get a little bit of that from social media and you could have an offline discussion about that, but I just really enjoy filming those conversations. So the conversation you're going to see here is my first full-scale conversation with Chris. We chatted a little bit offline after Andy Milligan, a mutual friend of ours, introduced us, and just jived really well. I think there's a lot of really good takeaways from this episode specifically. Anytime I have one of these type of, first new conversations with somebody, I'm always trying to, like I said, kind of build that understanding up and see if there's any, value that I can exchange in as well. And I think that this was just a really good conversation. Super excited to continue to connect, potentially collaborate with Chris. He's really starting to build up a lot of his content efforts because he's been in the agency game for such a while. And they're doing a lot of really good stuff there over at Classic City. So learned a lot about him. I know that you guys are going to benefit a lot from hearing about it too. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below and one of us will definitely answer. But definitely make sure as well in the description or wherever you're watching this, show notes and everything, go check out Chris. He's huge on LinkedIn. And check out Classic City for any inspiration if you're in the web development industry. And if you need any help, definitely you can go check them out as well if you're in the target market that they service. Really good conversation. Again, I think that there's such a mutual alignment with me and most of you out there possibly listening. So without further ado, Chris LaFay. Yeah, I don't know. Where do we begin? I mean, obviously our mutual friend Andy Milligan kind of set us up here, and that was dope. So I mean, like, how'd you? Guess we can start there briefly. How'd you meet Andy?
I met Andy through LinkedIn. And I heard of him a while before we actually connected. And I saw his posts and his content around web stuff and all this jazz. Like, okay, cool. This guy's cool. And he's commented on my stuff every so often. And at one point, he just randomly reached out to me via DMs. He was like, hey, just FYI, you post cool stuff. Thanks for posting cool stuff. And from that particular point, we ended up having a phone call and we chatted a lot and we dove very deep, very quickly together in terms of business metrics, numbers of things, like how his business was running, how my business runs, and the stuff that you don't normally talk about on conversation number 1 or 2. Normally it's a little bit farther down the line. But we dove in deep super quick. And because of that, we got to know each other really well super quick. And so now we're calling and texting every day. He tells me the stuff he's been up to, the challenges that he's going through, the challenges I'm going through. And we've kind of accidentally become like accountability partners with each other. And now we're kind of, doing this thing together a little bit. And it's a lot of fun when you start out being random connections and friends, and then you kind of merge into this really interesting, mentorship type of role But it's fun to see how, I've been in business for a lot longer than Andy has. And so I have a lot more experience to share. It's not that I'm smarter or wiser. I just have more licks. And so it's fun to talk to somebody who's so new in the game, and the questions that he's asking are the things that I've screwed up 5, 10, 15 times in the past. And I'm like able to say like, oh, I see the direction that you're heading. My experience says that if you keep going this direction, you're going to hit a wall somewhere over here. And then he redirects and there's success there. And I don't say that to be like, I'm the smartest person in the room. I'm not. I'm dumb. I haven't, I've done very minimal in the grand scheme of things. But then it's also really interesting to see the opposite of that as well, too. I talk to him a lot about the stuff that I'm going through and the stuff that I'm trying to figure out and the stuff that I'm struggling with and trying to figure out what decisions I want to make. And it's funny when somebody like Andy, who doesn't have as much experience in growing a business, the things that he says lines up with some of the mentors that I have who have 10, 15, 20 years of experience. And so it's really fun to see both sides of that equation kind of balance out. Implies there's like a legit give and take that's being counted, and that's not what I'm trying to say. But it's fun to see both things happen. And that's when you have a good relationship with folks. It's a give and a take. It's a both sides thing. It's a lot of fun.
There's a really important point I feel like in there too. It's like, everyone, if you're like an ambitious young person, or I mean, it doesn't matter what age you are, but if you're ambitious and you're knowledgeable in a sense of that you want to learn more, I think really the main differentiating factor is literally just time. Like it's come down, it's just time and experience. Like that's the whole thing. And I've always tried to learn from other people's experiences, and I do that to the best of my ability. But at the same time, you can't like sometimes you do have to make those mistakes. It's nice to hear that from people when you're, especially like you just illustrated there, when you're headed somewhere. It's like, oh, like I would be like, or me or Andy or somebody's like headed somewhere, and then you're like, hey, you're probably going to run into this roadblock up here. And it's like, oh, I kind of did think that, but I wasn't sure. But if you're telling me that likelihood is higher because you literally have, then that's definitely a huge value add to have in that situation.
I've noticed that with a lot of the mentors and advisors that I've had just over the years, is the ones that have had the biggest impact over time have been the ones that they lean on the continuum of purely sharing experiences versus purely doling out advice. The ones that lean more towards that experience sharing side of things tend to be the ones where the revelations like click in a lot more. I'm a part of a group, an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. I've been in it for the last like 2-3 years. And it's about like getting a group of business owners together, meeting for 4 hours a month and really diving in deep about legit business challenges. And one of the things that they taught me from the very beginning is like, when you get in that room and you're around all these other business owners and you're talking about real stuff, this is not a place to just give advice out, because advice is so one-sided. It's only to the benefit of the one person receiving that advice for the most part. The thing is, if the advice is wrong, now you've just given bad advice. And if you give enough bad advice, eventually your word is going to be lesser and lesser and lesser and lesser. This guy sucks at advice. But if you share your experiences, the things that you have that like, this is where the problem was, this is how I balanced out trying to find the solution, and then this is the direction that I ended up going, and here's kind of what the outcome of that was. You're not giving advice. You're just sharing your story and allowing people to take the parts and pieces of how you process through that entire story and to pull stuff that's meaningful and valuable to them in their moment, in their context that they have, that you might not have. And so being a part of that group has really shaped a lot of my communication in general. But it's also, I realized through all of that just how detrimental bad advice can be. And don't get me wrong, I do realize that there are points where people need to sit you down and be like, look,
Mm.
I see what you're doing, and what you're doing is not good. You need to shift now. And there's a reason and a time and place for that. But in order for that to have the biggest impact, you have to have context.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I feel like inherently I've thought that way for a while, where it's like, again, like one of my mottos, learn, try, and share. So it's like, I don't really want to be reporting on stuff that I haven't necessarily done. I don't want to tell people how to make, $2 million in a year when I haven't done that, so it's like, and give people blind advice also is kind of silly. Yeah. So I feel like that I've never heard it explained exactly like that, but it is a very concise and beautiful way to put that. Just, don't give advice, just kind of generally don't give advice, just, report on your experience and like kind of how you navigated things.
I think you're the first person ever to tell me that I explained something in a concise format. And you also just said that after I probably spent 2 to 3 minutes explaining all of that as well. So, sir, are you an external processor as well, like I am?
I don't know, but apparently it would seem like it. I have a problem with concision as well, so maybe my definition of concision is skewed.
It's a little bit longer. My version of my concision. I like that word. Is that an actual word, concision?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up after the show. I thought so.
Dude,
maybe.
I like that. And if it's not, I'm going to steal it. Actually, if it is, I'm still going to steal it and use it again anyway.
Just say it's a word. It doesn't matter. You can say whatever you want.
People know exactly what that is. Yeah. I add prefixes and suffixes to everything and make up these mashable words all the time. I'm not going to be able to think of one now, but it just kind of comes very naturally and sporadically when the moment strikes. It's like, oh, yeah. There it is.
Yeah, I hear you.
So what are you up to right now that you are genuinely excited about? Something a little bit longer term.
It's a loaded question. Yeah, a lot there. I'm up to a lot of stuff, but if I had to, I don't know if I've answered that question recently, like I'm actually like really excited about. I would say that this initiative that I have right now, where I am filming a short every single day. Today is actually day 100 of me doing a short every single day. So
fantastic.
I would say that that's pretty exciting because my journey over the last, I don't even know, I want to say like 5 to 7 years has been trying to figure out what I'm really the best at, but also enjoy the most. And still not there. But I feel like I've made progress. But I think the one thing that I'm the most excited about is literally just having conversations with people and documenting my life. So I don't know why that is, but that just seems to be the thing that I always come back to. There's so many signals that I have for that. I like to make those daily shorts. I like to just learn, try, and share everything I do. I have a spreadsheet that has each row of it is like a date, and then a category, and then an event of like things that have happened in my life. I got like 250 lines on there.
Dude.
So yeah. So like, it's like if I wanted to write a biography, I could just throw that into ChatGPT and it could just like write one for me. So I don't know why I like this shit though, Chris. I really don't. But that's what I really enjoy. And that's kind of what makes me the most excited. And then just to tie that all together is I started all this just by learning how to build websites. And the first thing that I wanted to build when I built that was like a personal website for myself. And I've since built, a bunch of other websites and learned a lot there.
Yeah.
But it all kind of comes back to that. So really that's the thing I'm most excited about in a way, amongst other things, I guess. But it's also like how to monetize that sustainably is like the constant thing. That's like the yin and yang of that whole situation. Cause there's a lot there. It's very possible, but like everything else, you just got to figure out a way to do it, I guess. So
monetizing being a content creator is like so easy. I mean, there's like a bazillion of them out there. Why would there be a bazillion of them out there if they just couldn't make money by just posting YouTube shorts all day long?
I mean,
Just saying.
yeah, there's
saying.
no there. I mean, there's definitely some credence to that. Well, let me flip that question real quick though. As I know a little bit about you, but is that how much, if any, is that a part of your persona right now? Because I know you do content, and I know that you obviously have a great setup there, but you also have a business, and are you kind of like getting into that realm now? Have you always been in it to a degree? Give me your context on that though.
Yeah. So I'm going to back up one step because I feel like backing up a small step would be helpful. I've been in web design and development literally my entire life. I got started in middle school. And yes, I did make a couple $100 in middle school. So albeit not very professionally, I at least kind of was. And my story is very simply put of just a very slow and steady growth. Like in terms of like revenue and team members, like any growth metric you want to attach to it, it's just been very slow and steady. To the point where I woke up at one point, like in 2016, and was like, oh, I have contractors. I have a team. I kind of have a business now. Didn't really realize that. And then the business has undergone a couple of shifts and changes over the years, mainly around personnel, the types of things that we do. A lot of founders start a business, it fails, and then they start something new. Whereas me, I basically have kind of recalibrated Classic City Consulting a number of times over the years. And so with all that being said, is that for my entire life, business has been referrals and word of mouth. There's been no consistent marketing efforts going out outside of the last year or two. I've been fairly consistent about posting on LinkedIn. The last 6 to 8 months, I've been fairly consistent about sending a monthly to bi-weekly newsletter out to the folks that are inside of my HubSpot account. And I'm pretty decent about just staying in touch with the 30 to 50 like key referral partners that we have on a monthly, quarterly basis. And so just doing those motions, albeit inconsistently, have kept the business alive for the better part of 2 decades in some way, shape, or form, right? So going back to the content piece is the one area, because I'm a very much a shiny object person. Find a shiny object, I find a new tool, I want to go do it. And the one shiny object that I, for whatever reason, did not ever pursue was podcasting. Because I never had a good reason to do it other than Chris just wants to do it because it sounds cool. And so earlier this year, I decided to go ahead and dive in. I realized that kind of my target audience is founders and founders of businesses and stuff like that. And I really connect well with them and was like, I can talk to them about their problems and their solutions and all this stuff. I could do that all day long. And so why not now? And so this whole backdrop and stuff, the mic setup, the lights, the whole kit and caboodle, something that I kind of slowly built over the last probably year or so, because I'm also not a very handy person. And to hang that guitar and to hang this light required screws to be put into the wall.
Yeah.
And I know how to screw things into a wall. I'm not that little handyman-esque in my life, but if I were to drill a hole in the wall and it was in the wrong spot, that thing ain't getting spackled and repainted. It's just going to be a hole in there until I move. So I had to be 100% certain that I was going to sit at my desk right here in this exact position so that I could hang my guitar on one side and my lightning bolts on the other, and it framed me very nicely. And that took me about 5 years to really, really be okay and committed to this office layout. So content creation is on the upswing. How I want to do it, I don't know. The podcasting is great. I really enjoy it. I'm going to continue to do it. It's something I feel like I could actually do for a long time. But I do like the idea of producing more content in a way. And I don't know where that fits into the marketing scheme as a whole. I don't know if that's going to be more kind of founder oriented content of just like kind of like business deep dives and stuff like that. I don't know if it's going to be maybe tied to some of the mentorship stuff that I do and like having like conversations with those folks, or if it's going to be more website oriented, how-tos and things to do for web and stuff like that. I have everything I need. It's just a matter of figuring out where the hole in the marketing mix is that I can plug that into to where I know that I'll be consistent with it and that I'll do it more than 5 times. And that's been my hold up there.
Gotcha. So it's, like you said, it's on the upswing. It's kind of a, not necessarily a newer endeavor entirely, kind of been doing it, but like it's ramping up. So with that, then the goal, you would say, like if you think about content creation for yourself, the goal of that is to drive sales for Classic City Consulting. That's the primary goal. Got it. So you're going to put out good, thoughtful, insightful conversations about business, about technology, marketing, maybe like something in those realms. People are going to, come to know and like and trust you. And then somewhere in there, after you, Gary V quote, like jab, 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 you're going to hit them with the right hook and be like, hey, in the description, we also build websites. We also handle all these other things. If you need any of that, just give us a shout. Yeah.
Bingo. And figuring out exactly where, like what mediums that fits on, what types of people I want to talk to, or the lack thereof. I also like the idea of just basically doing something with all my agency partners that I have. Like I don't get a ton of leads coming in, so I can't really feed my agency partners consistent leads. But I also love talking to them. They're some of my favorite people to talk to. And so maybe rather than it being a consistent same thing week over week or month over month, maybe it's a mini series that I do in collaboration with an agency partner where we dive deep for something for 2, 3, 4 episodes. That's either video or audio or something that's a little bit more tangible. I don't know. But I'm getting to know a lot of really interesting agency folks, and I already know a lot of interesting agency folks. And so I'm very interested in the collaboration side. And I feel like that's where a lot of growth is going to come from for agencies in the future. I think we're going to see a lot of smaller agencies, less of that kind of medium to large size kind of spitting up. And so I think the more that we can collaborate together on stuff, the more everybody wins at the end of the day, because we all have our preferences on who we like to work with, who we don't like to work with, et cetera, et cetera. So why not be friends and help us all each get together? Help us all each get better. There's the words.
I feel you. So to kind of go back to, kind of what we're talking about with the content there, when you asked me that question, then I was like, there is obviously millions of ways to monetize everything, which is a blessing and a curse, because sometimes if you overanalyze, you're like, oh, I need to find the best way, when realistically you should just find a way. It doesn't really matter what it is, and you can always figure out a better way. I'm learning that slowly, but to kind of paint the picture, and I'm going to give you a little bit of context, then I want your experience on this, because I love learning from people that have more experience than me, as we talked about earlier. My situation is I started an agency in like 2018. Like I was working a desk job at a real estate agency. They were coding shit in ASP.NET. I was like, I'll try this for 5 minutes. No, dude, not for me.
Oh,
not for me. I'd rather go play with something else and like just build myself a website. They told me to go check out WordPress. The rest is history, pretty much. So throughout that time, a little bit of time there, and then just moving on, I was like, I could build websites for myself. I can build websites for other people. Started doing that. I've only really ever had like maybe like 1 or 2 contractors, but like that's kind of what stemmed me into this area, where like I learned some stuff and I wanted to share it. And then now I've gained some more, I don't know, small notoriety in WordPress because I've just shared a lot more stuff, met a lot of people and stuff like that. So my thinking there is like, I've always been the person though, where I haven't scaled my agency to like, whatever numbers people think nowadays, or like 100 grand a month, 200 grand a month, like what, $1 million a year, whatever. Like that has not happened to me, because I wanted to get to, quite frankly, I just find it more interesting to like explore, talk to people, share the stuff that I'm doing. So I'm like more in that mind, which might be more of a kind of a founder and a content creator mindset. But I kind of skipped a step there a little bit, where I didn't scale the agency so I could do, you know what I mean? Like I'm still kind of split a little bit between like doing some work and then also creating content and selling and all that. It's getting better. It's trending. But my question to you is, and I love asking people this question, is where did you like come from as far as your background? If you could take yourself back, you know, a number of years, like what archetype do you think you were in the beginning? And how do you see, if you could retrace the trajectory, how did you get to where you are now? Is it similar? Is it dissimilar? How did you navigate that based off of like what you felt like you were, or you looking back, you feel like you were?
So I grew up in the suburbs of Atlanta, and when I got started in middle school, my brother is a decade older than me. So he was in college around that time. He was getting a finance and marketing degree and all this other kind of fun stuff. And when I started building little websites for mom and pop shops for, you know, $200, $500, you know, whatever cash they could find, and, you know, hiding underneath the chairs that people dropped, they were like, hey, we can pay this kid to build a website for us. That's what I did. And in my family, nobody ever built a business that I'm aware of. I think maybe my great grandfather may have owned some sort of something back in the 1800s, but like, I don't come from this like family of entrepreneurs or being self-employed or anything like that. And where I grew up is just like a very regular, normal suburban town. Every single chain restaurant and chain whatever is within a 5-minute drive. All that being said is that I didn't live in a big city. I wasn't surrounded by big businesses, big ideas, entrepreneurship, the whole 9 yards. And so I grew up with this smaller town mindset. That's not a problem. It's just a statement of fact is all that is. And over the years, that's part of the reason why the business grew so slowly and steadily, was that I didn't know that in Atlanta, there were a lot bigger companies that had bigger budgets to do bigger things. I mean, I kind of knew this, but I didn't fully grasp it and understand it. I'm an introvert. I'm not a networker by default. I'm not going online and trying to find the best events to go to and the best conferences to go to. I just sit and wait for people to ring my phone. And that's not a great way to grow a business. I don't recommend it one iota. And it just goes to show during kind of that initial growth period around college, the handful of agency folks that I knew that needed a freelance WordPress person that could handle design, development, and project management, I was their marketing website Swiss Army knife. And when you're an agency that doesn't really do WordPress, but you kind of want to make the clients happy, you're like, oh, we got Chris. He can handle the WordPress site for us. And so my mindset for a lot of that time was very small, very business owner oriented, etc. And over the last, and that was probably, you know, the vast majority of the trajectory from like 2004 was when I was in middle school and kind of all this started, up to like 2016 or so. And that was about 5 years after I graduated college. And in around 2016, I realized that we had a team, we had people, and I realized that Atlanta was right around the corner from where I live, and there's opportunities there. And so I started diving in, and my headspace started expanding some during that time of like, oh, we don't have to charge $1,000 for a website. We could actually go work with some other people, maybe charge $4,000 for a website, which was astronomically high for me at that point. It was hard for me to really wrap my mind around that I could charge 4 to 5 times the amount of money that I was used to. And that, like, was I worth that? And that was a very hard hurdle for me to get over, was I'm doing the same thing, but for 5 times the amount of cost. I'm not that valuable. And that took a very long time. And there's still elements of that sit in the back of my head. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still there. And then over the last 2 to 3 years, our team has shifted, our expense structure has shifted, et cetera, et cetera. We went from a $300,000 a year business to a $1.3 million a year business in about the span of 4 to 5 years, give or take. And we ended up growing in a very non-sustainable way. We had way too many expenses. We scaled all of our expenses with our revenue to the point to where, normally you kind of scale in line with one another, or even where the lines diverge some in a positive way. Our lines diverged in the negative way, where they actually, I guess they converged, not diverged. They converged together, and that's where sustainability wasn't a thing. And so over the last couple of years, we had to shift our target market, because in order for us to sustain a lot of these higher expenses, we had to go not talk to business owners anymore, but their CMOs. And my network and my motions that I normally go through is I meet founders day in and day. I don't have to try to meet founders. They just find me. And the last couple of years, I've had to shift some of how I go and run my sales and marketing efforts to go and put myself in those rooms with those types of people that are running much larger businesses and figure out how to connect with them. And so that mindset shift has been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, is because networking with founders and business owners is so natural. You can deep dive with a lot of these people very quickly. CMOs don't know in general, CMOs don't know what it's like to start a business. Now, some of them might have their own fractional thing. Some of them may have done the whole marketing agency thing, et cetera, et cetera. Realize I'm painting with broad strokes. But in general, that business owner discussion is between two business owners is very different from a business owner to a CMO. They're just on different, not levels in terms of positive or negative, but just two different spaces. And that mind shift is still challenging. That was, believe it or not, fairly short.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all that, Chris. Definitely a lot there, and I can resonate with a lot of that. A couple points specifically is I'm from Pittsburgh, so it's a kind of a big small city. There's not it's not New York, but it's not Philly, but it's big enough to be a city. So I'm from the suburbs, but I'm 10 minutes outside of the smallish city. And my grandmother had a restaurant for 30 years. So I'm and that I worked at for a very long time. My mother pretty much ran. So it's that, it's entrepreneurship, but it's very small business, literally create a job for yourself business, which again, not a problem, but it is again, kind of a statement of fact thing. It's there's different levels to this. Either you're an employee, you create a job for yourself, or you really create a business. And I've definitely been an employee, absolutely hated that. I've definitely created a job for myself, but as I get older, as I want to start a family, so many other things, now I need to feel I need to continue to scale that. So I'm in a similar, different spot, but similar mindset. I feel with a lot of those things, a lot of that stuff resonates. So I totally feel that. And then, as far as, so I think what I'm kind of gathering is, when I ask the question, I think of where did you come from? And it sounds like you've been tinkering for such a long, you tinkered at a very young age, and then that kind of sparked a lot of it. To very specifically, when you said you went to college, did you go technical route, or did you go marketing? What was or business route? What was when you got to that point, you already had so much experience, but what did you actually go for from a degree standpoint, I guess?
Yeah, it was interesting, because every year that I stayed in college, my degree became less and less valuable.
That's funny.
Because, the whole idea of getting a degree helps you get that first job, right? And once you have experience, then the experience trumps the college degree. And so I went to school for a degree called Management Information Systems, which I thought was going to be a really interesting mix between just business acumen and a little bit of technical stuff. And it turns out that degree ended up being project and process management. Literally just definitions of words for 4 years. Of things that I didn't know the technical terms for them all, but I kind of knew what they were already. And the couple of coding classes that I took were things that I basically, on day one, I grabbed the book and I flipped to the back of it to see what the most complex challenge was going to be. And it was something that I learned 5 years ago. And I was like, great, I can at least sleep through this class. That's wonderful. And it was a good experience overall. Like, I definitely wouldn't trade going to college. I'm glad that I did, because of the jobs that I had throughout college. If they disappeared at any point in time, I would have been messed up. And so it definitely helped. I met a lot of good people. Heck, I met my wife at college. And so there was a lot of good things that came from it, but there wasn't really this, when I was going through it, there wasn't this huge emphasis on like entrepreneurship programs and stuff like that there are now. And so I do wish back then they had stuff more along those lines, because that's probably the route that I would have gone at the end of the day.
Gotcha. So when you were building websites, for context, if you don't, I'm sure you're probably fine with it. How old are you, for context?
I turned 36 this year.
Okay. So timeline wise, what were you, was it always WordPress? Like, you were always building in WordPress?
So back in the day, WordPress was not a thing. So when I got started back like middle school, high school, WordPress may have existed, but nobody really knew that it was there. In college, I actually took a very particular class that was called Web Design and Development, and I got very excited about it, because I'm like, this is like an actual class that is in my like sweet spot. And I got excited because I'm about to learn something new. And I get there in this class, the college that it was within was in the process of moving from building to building. And so we were physically put in a closet for this computer lab. It was the tiniest room of all time. And I get there, the teacher's really cool, and I look at his custom syllabus that he built out. And again, same thing, I flip to the very back and see, hey, what's the last thing we're going to learn? And again, it was stuff that I already knew. And so I had one moment of extroversion in college, and I went up to that professor at the end of the day and was like, I can show you all the work that I've done the last 4 years. I know this stuff inside and out. If you want me to sit in the back of the classroom and not bother you at all, great, that sounds fine. I'll make 100 in your class. If you want me to help you teach, because that sounds interesting to me, I can help you. Because he was a very, I noted from day one, he's very hands-on. He's one of those people that like teaches for 20 minutes and then lets you go and start working on stuff. And he kind of wanders around the classroom to help out. And I was like, the space is very hard to manage. Like, you can teach, and then I can help, students learn, basically. Or if there's like a new technology you want me to look into for like option number 3, because you rewrite your syllabus year over year, you improve it. If there's something that you want me to learn and then teach you so that you can then teach it next year, let me know. And so he chose both options 2 and 3. And so I helped him teach in the class, and he also wanted me to learn how to build a WordPress site. And so that's where I got my WordPress kickstart, was because that teacher allowed me to go against the grain, not sit in the back of the class and be Mr. Antisocial, and allowed me to help other students learn. And also I learned something new, and then also taught him as well too. And so that was one of those like trajectory shifting moments for me, was that. And I, to this day, am mind boggled that I had the guts to go up and talk to him and be so bold, because I normally am not that way.
Yeah. Interesting. So around that time, then that's when you first started, I guess you first learned WordPress, but like, and then obviously there's a time period in there, but like, I mean, what was the quick result of that? Were you just like, oh, I could definitely use this? Or was there a period of time where you had to let it mature even more? I mean, I feel like now that's kind of your bread and butter from what I kind of saw, but like, was it always like that? I just asked this question because I know a lot of people that watch me know me from WordPress content, and that's pretty much, I know the other platforms, but I know WordPress the best because in a lot of ways it could be, it has been. But what's your trajectory been just like on the tooling?
Honestly, since then, it's pretty much all been WordPress. And so before that, the job that I had, you were talking earlier about building sites in ASP.NET and all that jazz. And the job that I had during college was a remote job where I was building websites. I was a part of a larger agency, and web was one thing that they did. And we built websites in Sitefinity, which is a .NET CMS that has at the time, astronomical annual licensing fee cost. And so I got a little taste of other CMSs back then and got to build in those. But before that, I was building, to get really into the technical stuff, table-based HTML websites.
Yeah.
No CMS, no nothing. Dreamweaver, rock on Dreamweaver. Like that thing got me through before college and a little post-college. But after college hit and I learned how to build a website theme within WordPress, that's where everything went from there. I don't know if, outside of some random little things that we've closed over the years, and this has mostly been like at least 5+ years ago at this point, pretty much everything we've done has been WordPress. There's probably an edge 5% of like some random little like progressive web apps that we've created for some couple of clients that we like, but that's on our sweet spot. And so we'll do it for the right thing, but WordPress has been 90%, and then probably over the last year to 2 years, we have dovetailed a little bit into Shopify. We were able to get a couple of clients from one of our agency partners. We don't advertise Shopify, but we have really good Shopify devs. And so we don't have enough, like the body of work there isn't large enough to be like, hey, we do this and we do it a ton. But the couple of things we have done are very in-depth. And so when they come up, it's great. So I enjoy the Shopify stuff. It's very much, it's very black and white. It's like, hey, we need dev help. And it's a lot of these folks have their marketing plans, their marketing structures, the whole 9 yards. They just need a good dev team to kind of plug in there. So that's been a lot of fun.
Interesting. So let's close the loop then on the trajectory portion of it, because we know that you started tinkering early. We know that you went to college for I went to college for information science is what I ended up graduating with, but I started in computer engineering, then went to computer science and then got information science. So it's like, I can clearly see my trajectory of like, oh, I am a technical person, but ultimately the best place that I fit is right in between the technology and the people, like in most cases, because I understand the technology, I understand people, or I'm interested in both, and I like to be right in the middle. I don't like to be at my computer 24/7 coding. I don't like to only be selling or only be doing whatever. I understand that there is value to both, and that's kind of where I fit. So like for yourself, it sounds like you started and you know, I don't know, bootstrap the right word, but you did that. You were creating your own themes. Like you have initially, and maybe even now, like you had like developer chops. That's how you built all of your initial stuff. What was your trajectory like? Like very simply put, easiest way to ask this question, like what is your day-to-day now? What was it like a few years ago versus what it was like a few years ago? Are you just solely like a founder kind of deal now? Are you still deving anything? Are you just trying to generate sales for the business? Like how is it scaled as far as like an actual entity and an operation like that from your perspective?
Yeah, so I probably for the last 2 to 3 years have not touched code at all.
Okay.
Now there are a few edge cases to that. Like there's a website that was built in Elementor that I'm touching right now because I like the owner that brought the work in. He needed some edits and stuff. I'll hop in on that kind of stuff because I enjoy it every so often. But in terms of full build, no. I have not done a full-blown build from design to dev to content import in multiple years at this point, and I'm perfectly fine with that. To back up one extra step, kind of during that growth process of learning WordPress and things along those lines, I have one of those brains that can both do the creative design side as well as the development and a touch of the project management as well, too, because I do like the people. And so I was kind of one of those Swiss Army knives that could do all of those things. I'm definitely a better developer than I am a designer, although I'm rusty on design now. I definitely haven't designed anything in like 4 or 5 years. But I enjoy the creative challenges that come with that. And so with that being said, over the last 2 to 3 years where I really haven't touched code at all, yes, you're right. It's been sales. It's been sales and sales and sales and sales. And it's interesting to be able to watch when I am doing a good job, or I should maybe say I'm being more consistent on staying in touch with new folks that I meet and continuing the conversation and not letting them die after like, hey, nice to meet you. Let's stay in touch. And then nobody ever does. To see how that sales trajectory moves. And so I am not a natural born salesperson. I'm a people pleaser. I don't like bothering people for a sale. I don't want to take a great relationship that I have and we're really good friends now after the first meeting and be like, how can I help you with a website? I've never been good at that, converting that. I'm much better at playing the long relationship game of waiting for stuff to come up when it comes up. And so that's been part of the interesting piece of kind of that revenue growth trajectory over the years, which has been a lot of it has just been because of relationship building. And some of the timing that some of those relationships dropped potential projects into our laps. And so one of the hardest things for me in terms of my role change is I'm not really just sitting in the founder's seat. I'm sitting in this mix of founder, CEO, and also chief sales officer as well too. And I'm good at sales. I'm good at, once things come in, taking them through the sales process, making people feel comfortable through it, and that we're actually solving a problem for them and not just prescribing a solution. Very partnership oriented. So I like the idea of like, tell me what your actual problems are and I'll tell you whether or not I can fix them. And if I can't, I know everybody in the website game. I can get you to the right person that'll solve your problem better than I can. And so I've gotten a lot better about drilling down a lot faster, but the big portion of being a chief sales officer that I am not good at, nor am I consistent at, is the finding new opportunities side of that and actually creating a sales engine to have the company keep moving on. And so that's been something that I'm actively learning now, is how do I break some of the rusty parts of my personality and the things that things I'm not as consistent with in doing. How do I knock some of that rust off and actually get those parts and pieces moving to create a system that I can then pass off to somebody else later? And so that part has been the biggest struggle in kind of the business growth trajectory, is figuring out that piece. And I haven't figured it out yet. So That's where I sit.
So that's the main, would you say that's kind of your biggest hurdle, your biggest project right now, is just trying to generate, is it as simple as like generating more leads?
Yeah. Quite like, not to put too fine of a point on it, but yeah, 100%.
Is that, I mean, I think you said earlier that you mostly relied on like word of mouth. So like, have you tried other things? Like, have you tried, I don't know, ads? Obviously we talked about the content. That's the thing that you're kind of, you're working out now and you've been working on for a year or so. But like, have you tried the other things? I'm not really, cause I'm not speaking from experience. I haven't, most of my stuff has been word of mouth as well. And I feel like that's a lot of people in this industry until they start trying other things. Like, again, content is a big one. If you put content out there, then it's really just like establishing authority in a lot of ways too. And then people just like see that and they're like, oh, this person obviously knows what they're talking about. They have a microphone in front of them and they're talking into a camera. So it's like, that's pretty much
it's that easy.
It can be that easy. And it's like, but like from an advertising standpoint or anything, have you guys ever tried anything like that?
We have not, and mainly because, and this is also something else that we're working on too, is we haven't really had a defined foot in the door offer. Like, I've always been hesitant to run ads for a large scale website build. It's like, okay, great. People are going to know people for that. And obviously it's still a good play to run ads just for, again, the visibility. Kind of the same idea around doing content is sometimes the ads play is not necessarily to get the conversion right then and there, but it's just to stay top of mind to the right people, even if the click-through rates aren't the best. And so we haven't gone down those routes, mainly because I wanted to have some type of a product that would get our foot in the door, could be a very simple credit card purchase to where we wouldn't really have to do 15 sales calls with 25 different stakeholders. That could be like hey, I've seen your content, I've seen your ads, we'll go ahead and give this a shot. And we haven't come up with that yet. And that's something that we're actively working on now, because I don't mind the idea of running ads. I'm very much against running ads for the large, big project or the large retainer type of work, because I just feel like People are going to talk to people that they know about that stuff. But, somebody might, be able to toss a couple of grand onto a credit card bill to try something new out. And something that doesn't take us a bazillion hours to accomplish. And so threading that needle has been a very interesting conversation that we've been having over the last couple months. I don't have the answer for it yet, but I'm hoping within the next month or so I do. So
I think that could obviously help regardless, like, because when you have that, you could layer that in as the, the jab, so to speak, in the content as well.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's almost like just like a, that's kind of your landing page offer effectively, or one of them.
Bingo.
Yeah. Thought about that myself. I think that's probably a good route to travel. Cause the word of mouth stuff is good until it's not. And then it just kind of starts to drive. I would feel like, the interesting thing that I'd be interested to hear or even workshop, I don't know what experience I could really give, pretty much none. But the thing that I'd be interested in critically thinking about is like, are you targeting enterprise? Is that what I gathered? Or is it like kind of whatever, or like what's your vibe?
Yeah, we've had a lot of success over the last year or two in the B2B software space. So not the software that you and I are probably actively using, but the governmental SaaS that costs $20,000 a month just to license the big stuff, the stuff that isn't really talked about a lot. And so the reason, after thinking about that and diving into that, the reason why we've seen success there is these CMOs need to have hyper interconnected websites. They need to have their knowledge base, their blog posts, their PR, their testimonials, their case studies, and they all need to be stored in a way that it's very easily accessible by being like dropping a block on a page and being like, which testimonial would you like to add, and select it from a drop-down menu, rather than having to drop a content block and type in the testimonial for the 15th time, grab the photo, grab the name, etc. In highly techie terms, custom post types with custom fields. And having all of that content at their disposal so that their marketing team, who are not website people, have libraries of building blocks, 12 to 15 to 20 of them, to where those building blocks are fully on brand, pre-structured, have all the content sections laid out for them. All they have to think about is writing the words on the page. And that's it. And so for those types of businesses, they need a complex website that's built thoroughly and well that connect all those pieces together. And so while the legit definition of enterprise, going for like the billions and billions of dollars of companies, we don't really target those folks, as typically they have something custom built. They have an e-commerce site that everything lives on. They typically don't have a lot of WordPressy stuff. That's not 100% true. I realize that. But we target that legitimate middle market of companies that have a actual CMO, not just they gave their 10-year employee a CMO title for kicks and giggles, and at least 2 or 3 actual marketing team members that are working on websites that are hundreds of pages, if not thousands. And so that narrows the market down some, and a lot of that is in that B2B software space. Now, have we gone full bore on this is our target market and this is what we're going to talk about on our homepage of our Classic City site? No, we haven't. We need to be a little bit more finely pointed there. But that's the general direction that's heading. And that's exciting that we actually finally have that, because literally the past 20 years, I've had nothing in terms of any type of ICP definition. So this is the closest that we have ever gotten to actual honest to goodness ICP that we're all kind of happy about, actually.
Interesting. Every time I have one of these conversations, I find it so fascinating, the niches that people give me. That's a new one. I'm gonna have to start making a list of all these different these different ones. B2B SaaS, not B2C. B2B, big business SaaS. That's a good one.
Yeah.
How do you get into that? How did you? I'm sure it's I just stumbled upon it. I feel like that's everybody's story with that.
We had we hired somebody to help us with our go-to-market strategy a year and a half ago, and he was also doing a little bit of work he is a part of a Slack channel of fractional CMOs, and one of them said, we need a website guy, and this dude was like, you should talk to Classic City. And that was one of those B2B SaaS folks. The CMO of that company was in that channel. And then the other one was a agency referral. We have a big agency that we work with a lot here in Atlanta, who they are 4 to 5 times our size and a lot farther down in a very different route than we're going now. But they do web design development, mostly for multi-unit brands. And they got a lead that came in because they built a website a while ago for a foundation. And that organization went to that foundation and was like, hey, who built your website? And they're like, oh, these guys did. And so they put together the quote, the whole 9 yards, but they couldn't agree on the numbers exactly. And so our agency buddy was just like, if you like me and you want to work with a company that's like ours, you should go talk to Chris. Chris can hit your budget very easily and we'll knock it out of the park for you. And so it's friends, man. At the end of the day, it's all about friends.
It's all networking. That's what my mom used to tell me. She was right. It's all about networking. It's funny. Okay, definitely want to kind of like start to wrap up here with just some thoughts. So like, I mean, obviously the trajectory and everything like that has been impressive. You have this new initiative, and again, it's probably one of the most interesting things. And I'll give you a little bit of context too. When I started the MJS podcast, one of the things was know a lot of people, make a big list again of like all the people that I want to like chat with, and obviously that is going to continue to be ever growing. One of the things that I found super interesting as I was doing that was like there's basically independent pieces of data about each like, you know, guest that comes on the show that I was interested in. And I have on that list, it's like obviously first name, last name, but it's like, what is their business website? What is their true personal website? And then like, do they have a YouTube channel? And then maybe some other like stuff like, you know, their socials or whatever, just because I like to kind of like analyze everybody's, like every individual's like digital footprint, so to speak. And
totally. Yeah,
it's interesting to me when I think about this because I love personal branding in general, but I just love like independent, almost like creative media, like the things that people are putting out and stuff like that. And with you, there's a couple things I want to hit on. You have a website that is it just chrislafay.com? Is that?
You stumbled on that sucker there, did you? That at the time of this recording, I have not posted on that in about a year or so. And it's very, very blue, if I recall correctly.
I mean, if I was looking at the right thing, which I'm pretty sure I was, it's literally just a stream of, you know, I think it's in the corner, it says an entrepreneur's scratch pad.
Yes.
And it's actually, I love it, honestly. Like that is, it's one of those things where like you see it and you're like, damn, that is very similar to things that I've thought about or like looked at. I mean, I guess more or less it's a blog, you know, like it's like a WordPress blog type thing. But I really like what you did because some of them are like really short. They're just like quick little thoughts. And that is literally exactly how I actually put this on X recently. I was like, how can a blog post be just like a sentence long or a sentence or two long? And people are like, yeah, no, it's like, okay, bro, I know I'm not ranking for SEO when I do that. Okay. It's just like, I was thinking, should I create another CPT? I intentionally left it vague, but I was thinking like, should I create like another CPT like called Gold Nuggets or something and just make it like that? But regardless, that's neither here nor there. But I love what you did there because I have those thoughts all the time, and then they go up in like, you know, like a notepad or, you know, note app or whatever. And then occasionally with the shorts and stuff, I have more of an outlet to share that stuff with. But I don't think it's like particularly productive for us to just keep that stuff, you know, on our person, so to speak, on our digital person. Like if you put that on your blog or you put that even on socials, I just love that. So when I saw that, I was like, really like, damn, that's even more inspiration to try that for myself, like on my website. So I don't know. I was just curious to get the backstory. I don't know. That was interesting.
So I didn't realize actually it used to be bright blue, the whole thing. It was the same layout as something you're seeing now. It's now I toned it down a little bit. It was also a very interesting thought process for a person who does web design to not put a lot of thought and effort into the design of their own personal blog. It's a very interesting topic of the appropriate types of minimalism. when it comes to somebody whose expertise is in website design, and it should be good, but it's a little bit more brutalistic. And I know that's not we're not going down that route, but it's a route that we could go down eventually. But I have a buddy of mine who has blogged every day, excepting a very few, for I want to say 8 years now.
Wow.
And that includes Monday through Sunday. And I think he was sick for a few weeks and he got a couple days behind. And just this year was his first intentional break where he was like, I'm gone. I don't have a backlog of posts. I'm going to be on vacation. Such is life. And that person is somebody that I follow, have a lot of respect for. And when I started writing these, one of the things that he does is he doesn't really give a crap how long his stuff is. Sometimes it's, like you saw in mine, a handful of sentences or a quote, and that's it. Other times it's longer form. And sometimes it's about a fun little technology thing that he grabbed. I got the Meta Quest today, and this is what I think about the Meta Quest. And other ones are about marketing, and sometimes they're about stoicism. Like it's all over the map. But it
sounds like my kind of guy.
It's him.
Yeah.
It is literally him. Almost said on a sheet of paper. It's not really on a sheet of paper, but on a digital sheet of paper. And there is no marketing efforts behind it. It's just what he wants to do and helps him process his thoughts. Because the whole idea of if you want to be a better writer, write. And so I really like the idea of it. And I'm trying to actually think through right now, how do I want to use chrislafay.com? There aren't that many posts on here, but I moved to Substack earlier this year because I was like, I could probably get more subscribers and more people to follow along if I was on a platform that made it easy to subscribe. And so I moved everything over there. And I'm kind of sad about that now because because the developer in me and the WordPress person in me is like, I wish I had more control. Dang it. Mm-hmm. It's also shiny object syndrome 101 as well, too. And so with the podcast that I have, with the founders that I talk to in the podcast that I'm actually like going on and talking on, is actually re-architecting chrislafay.com into something that is more of my personal home base for that type of stuff. Because I love writing short little things, but I also know that people don't necessarily want to get an email every single time I have a short little thought. And so figuring out how do I want to mix a little bit of marketing, like actual like marketing, not marketing topics, but marketing it out, without it being overkill. Trying to figure out where that hole, how to fit marketing into that particular hole. And I don't know what I want to do with it yet. And so it's there at least. And that's, having it there is better than not having it. At least there's a step in that direction.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's tough. Like I was saying in the beginning, it's not complex to monetize like personal efforts, but when you have a business that is making money and you're using your personal brand to kind of drive people that way, or your personal expertise, obviously, to drive people that way, then it's like, it has always been a question for me, probably too much I've thought about this, is like, you have your main business entity, what I like to call like your sellable brand. And then you have your personal brand that you're never going to sell. It will always have the expertise. It'll always have the knowledge, but you could monetize it. You could monetize it in a variety of different ways. You can monetize the info. You can monetize this, like, consulting service, whatever it is. Do you feel personally that that's the direction that you may head, where like, or just like partially, I feel like it is kind of built into you a little bit, but like, does that resonate with you that you might try to do more stuff under, Chris LaFay, or an entity that is personal as you continue to grow there? Or is that not on the radar immediately?
I really like the idea of working with other leaders in a consulting capacity at some point, whether that's this year, next year, 5 years from now. The one thing from my trajectory that I don't want to say that I feel like I missed. I don't have any regrets in this at all. So don't hear that. But I never really got to work alongside of another leader that was multiple steps ahead of me. I had a handful of really good bosses during my time. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a couple of very key people that shaped me and helped my trajectory that were my bosses. But kind of at that company level leadership, like I never got to sit at those tables with leaders of a company that my ideas and my structures that I have could actually shift the trajectory of that company in some way. And I really like that idea of being able to partner up with, not legally necessarily partner up with, but I like the idea of being able to work alongside of a founder that has a vision and has been successful, whatever that metric looks like for success, and be able to take that idea that they have for a new line of business, a new idea, a new structure to put out within their business, but they don't have the team to do it. And to be able to sit alongside them and be like, I will take that on. I will create this division. You already have a sales engine over here. You already have a pool of clients. You know that you could tap into this. You just don't have the time and the mental bandwidth to really sort through how do you tap into this engine that you've created to spit off a new revenue stream. And I really like that idea. And that's it's oddly specific. I realize that. But I do like the idea of doing some type of fractional consulting, especially if it's a founder-led business, it's a founder that I know, to craft that with them. And to be able to actually work alongside somebody very directly for, it doesn't have to be for a super long period of time, it could be 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, and really do that. And so the personal brand side of things makes more sense to filter that underneath. Also, I like the idea of starting a founder community of agency founders and things like that. And I know a handful of folks that already kind of have these communities. I don't necessarily want to create my own fire there, but I'm kind of curious if I could pour some gasoline onto some other folks' fire that is doing mentorship or coaching or things like that, maybe in a niche that they're not necessarily targeting, that my network has an abundance of, that we could kind of work on that together and pour fuel on that fire mutually. And again, that would be something for kind of like the personal brand side of things. But how does content creation fall into each of those buckets? That's the Connect Four game that I'm playing mentally now. Where do I put these and where do they fall?
Yeah, I hear you. It's a puzzle for sure. Yeah. So, but well, Chris, I know you got to run, man, but I greatly appreciate you. We appreciate Andy. Shout out Andy for setting it up, and I appreciate you for taking the time. Really love what you got going on. I'm excited to keep in touch and see, the trajectory of everything like that. We could definitely happy to chat again. I always love having these conversations, really digging into not just the technical stuff, but I feel like we hit on a lot of like more personal, like kind of personal journey, personal mindset things, which I think is really, I don't think you really hear that as much when you get into like the technical space like we're in. So that's what I love to do. So where can people find you and follow along with everything you're doing?
You can go to classiccity.com, or you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Chris LaFay. I think I'm the only one with that name. So if you know how to spell it, you're gonna find me. It's pretty easy. If you come across somebody else with that name, please let me know. I need to meet them. Because I have not found anybody yet, which is a wonderful thing. So
sweet. I'll have everything down in the show notes below, but appreciate you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Likewise, sir.